So I'm joined by Steve Gill. He's a former trade advisor to Clinton and Bush. Who do you think is the best suited to be the next president?
Well, I think when you look at Donald Trump's record as president, both in terms of the economy, in terms of world peace, in terms of making progress towards peaceful resolution, even with the Abraham Accords in the Middle East, he has a track record of success. COVID, took a deep bite out of that success, not only here in the U.S. but worldwide. But when you look at the positions and the policies of Trump on energy independence, on securing the border, on crime in our cities, across the board, his track record is much superior than what we've seen from the Biden-Harris administration. And then now that Kamala Harris is just starting to talk about some of her policies, it's clear that it will be a complete reversal of anything that ever has or will work, including price controls, including open borders, including her inability to stick to a policy, whether it's fracking in Pennsylvania or opposing fracking. Energy independence is not going to happen under their administration. And the fact that she's been hiding for 27, 28 days from even making a policy position, from doing an interview, from actually talking out of a script or a teleprompter tells you that I don't think she's ready to serve as the most powerful person in the world.
If we move on to misinformation, especially via social media, what impact do you think this may have on the presidential election and why?
I think it's already having some impact, and we've seen the impact of social media misinformation and just intentional propaganda playing out in the world in very grotesque ways in the last couple of years. I mean, we look at the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and we were told early on that there was this ghost of Kiev fighter pilot for Ukraine that was shooting down aircraft left and right. Nothing true about it. Then we get this new report that somehow a bunch of drunken Ukrainians went out on a sailboat and blew up the Nord Stream pipeline 230 feet down. Anybody that's ever done any scuba diving knows that's impossible. And yet the media just kind of nods their heads and goes along. Again, we look at COVID and the vaccine reports. Across the board, the media takes sides, and they're taking sides in this presidential election in the US, which makes people distrust not only what they read, but what they hear and even what they see with AI now, coming up with the ability to completely hide the reality or create new realities. So I think it has been a problem, and it's going to be a bigger problem as we roll forward, not just in this election, but in worldwide public policy and conflicts.
Which platform do you think this misinformation is present in?
Well, I only trust my post and yours, Navjeet. So anything other than that, I don't trust what I see on social media. I think that there needs to be better policing, not in terms of the government or somebody stamping down, but people need to take a breath before they share something they see on social media. Because if you'll just think for a moment, sometimes you'll know, no, that doesn't pass the smell test of truth. So I think we have to police ourselves. I'm a lot less interested in having the government police us, because then they do pick a side and start silencing voices they don't like versus those that may actually be misinformation. And again, we get the pushback of misinformation so often on social media. Something you disagree with is not necessarily factually untrue, and something you disagree with is not misinformation. You may just not like the information.
There are reports that the US could be on the brink of recession. Do you think it's true? Could we be seeing something of the crash, remember, in 2008?
I think we're close, and it depends on which policy path we use going forward. Again, the Biden-Harris administration has completely depleted our strategic petroleum reserve, not because we've been in conflict and needed the oil resources to fund tanks and aircraft, but because they're trying to buy down gas prices temporarily in order to gain political advantage. Gas prices in the U.S. were $1.84 a gallon when Donald Trump left office. They've been as high as $7. They're now down in the $4 to $5 range. All of this makes it more difficult for them to convince people that the economy is doing well, because it's not. Now, I don't think we're as close to a recession as some people would have us believe, but I do think that we are on tenuous ground, particularly in the real estate industry. All these people that went home during COVID, many of them are now in the US, and I know in UK as well, working from home. Well, those office buildings downtown in London and in Los Angeles and New York and Atlanta and Nashville, they're not filled. And at some point, these businesses will decide we don't need 3 floors. We can do 2. what happens to the office, commercial real estate? What happens to these commercial real estate retail centers, strip centers, and malls? When more and more people are buying from Amazon and other online sources, they don't go into the store. Those storefronts are vacant. You're going to see, I think, a real estate crash in the U.S. and perhaps more globally in the next 6 months to a year, and nobody's even talking about that.